welcome to July 21st Township Committee Meeting, Town Hall, 6 p.m., located at 770 Coopertown Road here at the Municipal Building. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bartlett.
Here.
Ms. Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Mr. McFadden.
Here.
Mr. Olet.
Here.
Ms. Seuss.
Here, thank you. Also present, Mrs. Simonera, our Township Administrator, Mr. Heinhold, our Solicitor, Mrs. Lohr, our Municipal Clerk, Mrs. Russell, our Deputy Municipal Clerk. Please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please read the sunshine and live stream statements, Janice?
Please be advised that proper notice of this meeting has been given in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act in the following manner. Written notice has been mailed to the Burlington County Times and Courier Post and published in the June 21st, 2025 editions. And written notice has been posted on the official bulletin board of the Township of Delanco at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. This meeting of the Delanco Township Committee may be transmitted via live stream on YouTube video. The streaming of the meeting is not intended to be relied upon as formal public access under the Open Public Meetings Act. And if the technology is disrupted for any reason, the township meeting will proceed in person as an official meeting in accordance with the official notice.
Thank you. If you could please take a moment and silence all your cell phones or put them on vibrate. And we're going to go ahead and read the rules governing public comment period and start our special town hall presentation. So Matt, could you please read them?
Sure. I'm testing my vision tonight here. All right. Pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-12, the Delanco Township Committee is entitled to permit, regulate, or prohibit public participation in its meetings. Public participation and comment shall be governed by the following rules to maintain order and prevent disruption of the meeting. Each speaker will have a maximum of 5 minutes to speak and should limit comments to the matter at hand. The speaker will be directed to conclude the remarks once the speaker's time has expired. No time may be yielded to a speaker by another speaker. Groups are asked to select a spokesman to speak on their behalf. Speakers will address the Township Committee from the podium and are asked to begin their remarks with their name and address for the record. Township Committee members are not obligated to answer impromptu questions or address remarks of the public during the public comment period. Speakers should expect the Township Committee to refrain from engaging in a dialogue except to the extent necessary to clarify the speaker's comment. The allotted time for engaging in a dialogue except to the extent necessary to clarify the speaker's comment. I'm sorry. Janice, you changed the font and it's so much smaller to read here. The allotted time for speaking from the podium is the method to address the Township Committee during the public comment period. The Township Committee will not entertain questions or comments called out from the audience. Speakers and members of the public should at all times maintain proper decorum and shall make their comments in a civilized manner. Personal attacks, obscenities, derogatory or slanderous remarks will not be tolerated.
Thank you very much. Mr. Heinhold, would you like to read your comments?
Yeah, I actually wrote out a statement, which I think I'm not sure I've ever done this in my career before, but I'm going to read a statement to you. We had some extensive discussion. I don't want to repeat myself, but if you didn't watch or come to the last meeting, you may want to go back and check the video and see the discussion about. There's been an issue that's been raised about expenditure of public funds for promotional materials relative to 401 Creek Road. So this issue is what leads to my statement. Over the past couple of weeks, an issue has been raised asserting that the township should not have expended public funds, approximately $2,800, to send mailers and place signs to encourage voters to approve the pending bond referendum related to the $3.6 million bond to purchase 401 Creek Road. The issue was further discussed at length at the Township's July 14th committee meeting, wherein I explained my reading of the law on the issue and the reasons for my conclusions. I went on about 10 minutes when I did that, so I'm trying to be a little bit more concise tonight. Following the comments made by the public and discussions that immediately followed, I conducted additional legal research, and that research has revealed additional law that, while not directly under the subject statute, calls into question my prior conclusions. While there is supportive law and logic behind the position that the township should be able to expend funds in this matter, There is also legal authority which suggests otherwise. In sum, the area of the law is not sufficiently well developed to provide legal assurance as to my initial analysis being the definitively correct opinion. In this situation, I am recommending we err on the side of caution. Additionally, discussions immediately after the meeting also indicated that there were potentially private funds willing to reimburse the township so that, quote, the public fund complaint is no longer an issue. While that initial decision that expending public funds was made in good faith, given the relatively small amount of money at issue, the further legal findings, and the offer of private funds, it has been my recommendation to take curative action to accept those private funds to remove any potential issue. When presented with this information, the 4 members of the governing body that are in favor of the purchase of 401 Creek have indicated their commitment to raise those funds relatively quickly to effectuate a reimbursement to the township. It is clear that this has become a somewhat controversial or divisive topic. Further, the members of the governing body in favor of the purchase of 401 Creek Road are concerned that the contention surrounding this issue may distract from the true issue, which is, of course, whether the purchase of 401 Creek Road is beneficial for the township. Simply put, there are times where there are things more important than being right. Discretion is the better part of valor. Those members of the governing body that have stepped forth to take this action to raise funds and reimburse the township took the initial actions in good faith and reliance upon my legal opinion. The steps being taken now are in further good faith effort to respond to the criticisms and an attempt to resolve differences within our community as amicably and honestly as possible to ensure that the issue before the voters remains as clear as possible, whether to purchase the property is in the best interest of the township. We're going to put this up on the website as well.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. And in our previous town halls, we've gone into detail about what the purchase is, why we're purchasing this, and I think everybody kind of has more information now to where we can skip that part of that. Don't have to go back into the presentation itself. The presentation's available on the website, detailing, how we got to this point, why we're purchasing it, the timeline. ERI soil and groundwater investigation is posted up there. Additional benefits, the maps showing the plot lines are all up there. So we just kind of want to focus on this town hall, just answering some questions and giving more information if necessary to clarify before the vote on Tuesday. So again, Matt read the rules governing the public comment period. Your timer starts at 5 minutes. I have a timer up here that I'll be happy to keep track of that for you, and then I'll let you know when you have 1 minute left. So if you'd like to make a comment or have a question, you can come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Mayor,
Sir?
prior to the public, I'd like to make a statement, please.
Sure.
Okay. We're here with the
Just pull the microphone closer to you. There you go.
we're here to the point now that we're going to have the referendum vote next Tuesday. And the reason that we've gotten to this point is folks signed a petition to bring it to referendum. And I'll just read it, of what they read prior to signing the petition. We, the undersigned, through this petition, oppose the debt to be incurred for the acquisition of land and the improvements thereon located at 401 Creek Road, Delanco Township, New Jersey. We oppose appropriating the sum of $3,600,000, therefore, and the authorization of issuances of $3,420,000 bonds or notes by the township for financing such appropriations. Okay. So we started out, Criterion went before the Joint Land Use Board. They got their approvals. Some residents came before the committee and asked if we could look into it. We did, subcommittee, and then as time went forward, agreement of sale took place, and then came a point for the bond. And opposing the bond is where we're at, the debt of the bond. Now, I started out with having this 20-day window of being able to object to the debt. When I started out, I was like, I don't think I can get 10 people to sign this thing, all right? And then as I started, people said, well, give me give me the slip. You know, folks in town should have the opportunity to vote on this for 3.6 million. We should all have a say in this. So we got to 10 people, and next thing you know, we're close to 100 signatures. And at that point, I was like, this thing has grown, and I better advise the rest of the committee. And I did that through our solicitor, Mr. Heinhold. Okay, and we ended up with 307 signatures, which was way over the 206 signatures that were needed to bring it to referendum for a vote. So here we are, the opportunity, or the unique opportunity for our community to vote on whether they want their tax dollars to go towards the debt is where we're at. So I encourage everyone, and knowing that we're probably in the $70,000 range for this election, all right, I feel like there's some pressure there that we need to get folks out to vote, and again, for this unique opportunity, whether they vote yes or they vote no, it's a unique opportunity for the residents to have their say. So, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Doug, just a quick fact check on that. We didn't find out about the petition until the 28th of April, right? We didn't have any notice ahead of time
So-
that this was forthcoming?
Mayor, I didn't know this was going to be an issue. I don't know exactly what the timeline was for the petition. I will say that the statute provides a 20-day window. Mr. Ouellette did advise me, and I advised others in town as soon as I learned that there was an effort to put a petition together. The exact timing of that, I don't remember, but the only operative fact really is that there's a 20-day window from which to file those petition documents, and as evidenced by the prior action early in May, the resolution that was adopted put the referendum on the ballot. So that's all been done.
And that's a 20-day statutory
Yes,
standard with every bond,
per the bond law,
yes,
yes.
thank you. Any other members of the committee wish to speak before we open it to public comment?
I think maybe we should state the fact that right after the Joint Land Use Board hearing where criterion was approved, Mike Templeton brought up to the Township Committee, and this was in 2024, why don't we buy this property and make this go away? And we sort of pondered that, but we didn't take any complete action or any real action at that time, but we did think about it. So as time went on, we decided, yes, let's look into that and see what a verbal approval or value of that property would be to maybe make an offer on that land. And so we set up a subcommittee of Carolyn and I, because you can only have 2 people on a subcommittee when you have 5 members on the Township Committee. So that initial idea came from Mike, and Carolyn and I did sit down with them. As this has been stated, I don't know how many times before, but I just feel like we should reiterate it. So we did sit down with them, and it was valued verbally at $4 million. So we offered 3.5, thinking that maybe they would come back at 4, and they agreed to accept our offer. So after they agreed to accept our offer, before we actually did the letter of intent, Doug was working on that. We actually put that through. We did a good assessment value, which came in at $5.4 million. So we thought we were pretty good at doing that, and everyone on the Township Committee agreed to the agreement of sale. Everyone signed the agreement, yes. We're in favor of purchasing this property. And so it was, and working in law for as long as I have 40 years in total, and handling a lot of real estate transactions during that time. It's very rare that someone agrees to purchase property and all of a sudden backs out of financing it. So I understand what Fern is saying, and I also understand that there's a vision for the town to protect the town by purchasing this property. Just like we had a vision when we purchased the mansion, and I have said this over and over again. And if you were at the ceremony at the mansion, our waterfront park, that vision started in 2005, but we didn't know what the end result was when we bought that building. That building was like $1,750,000. Then we bought the carriage house. That was a little over $350,000. It was more than we anticipated when we bought the carriage house. But we stopped something from happening in town that would have been a disaster. We stopped a juvenile detention center from being put in a beautiful building there. So right now what we're trying to do is to stop another problem in town, a diesel truck facility between a park and a residential residence. So it's no different than a vision for the mansion. And we didn't have a plan for the mansion. We had hoped to keep the property for Delanco Township, but we couldn't. It was too costly for us. So we went down the road, redevelopment. We had a couple different people come in and want to purchase it. They had plans. When you do that, you have the option. You make the decision of what actually can be developed on that piece of property. And we finally had Grapevine come in. And when Grapevine came in order for them to make any money on that property, they had to have the opportunity to put townhouses around the mansion. In order to redo the mansion, in order to bring it up to standards, we got 27 affordable housing senior units there that is on our affordable housing list, that we do not have to have any affordable housing this time around. This is the 4th round. We probably don't have to have any in the 5th round either. So you need to keep that in mind. The tax base that we got from the property surrounding the mansion was a good deal for Delanco, believe me. So that vision we didn't have when we purchased that property. We were trying to keep it for the town, but we couldn't. But that vision turned out to be a pretty good vision for Delanco. Look at the park we have today. We fought with the Army Corps of Engineers and DEP to gain back 10 feet of property that was eroded away, and now we have it. We have a wonderful park for the people to enjoy. So what's to say, now that was in 2005. God knows what that property would be worth today. So what's to say that this property is not going to benefit Delanco down the road? Right now, that property brings in a tax base of $23,000. Out of that, Delanco Township probably receives a little over $7,000. So we're not losing a lot of money. And when they finish doing what they're going to do out there, we may get maybe $8,000. And the school may get, I don't know, 10 or 12. The rest will go to the county and the state. So I understand economics. I understand people having to expend more money for taxes. But give us the opportunity to know that what we're doing is for the benefit of this town, because that's why we're doing it, to save a piece of land for the benefit of all the residents in this town. Not all the residents live near the Zerbrook Mansion and enjoy the waterfront property in this town. But we did it for all the residents in town to have the ability to enjoy it. So just think about that when you think about when you go to vote. This wasn't something that we just decided to do overnight. And it wasn't something that was not transparent. It's what we do. We try to make decisions for the betterment of this town. So when you go to vote, think about that. Think about what we've already done in the past and how this can benefit the future of Delanco. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Matt or Phil, did you want to make any
Okay.
comments at this
No,
time?
I think Kate covered it well.
Yes, thank you, Kate. That was very well said. Appreciate that. Okay, so we'll circle back and actually open this now to public comment. Again, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
Austin Dasher, 2405 Burlington Ave. I will begin by once again thanking the committee for this opportunity to learn more and discuss this $3.6 million bond and highlighting their reasons why they believe it is the right decision to purchase this land. After giving the committee the chance to explain their arguments for the purchase, I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight the list of cons or negatives that seem to have been either downplayed or left out. I lay these out not to define what you guys feel about this bond, but to ensure an equal representation of both arguments. I want to start with the biggest issue, taxes. And let's be clear, nobody can say how much or how little taxes will be increasing. But even the committee has acknowledged that they will increase. Context is important. And before we can even start looking at the tax impact coming from the 401 purchase, we need to look at everything leading up to it. The township is already looking at tax impacts, including but not limited to the approximate $104 increase to taxes from this year, the Delanco Centennial Celebration costs, which we're currently sitting at about $25,000, an equal amount or more are expected in 2026, depending on donations. Current debt repayment has been reduced to the almost minimum to try and offset this year's taxes. My interpretation of that would be that this minimum would mean we can't rely on lowering our payments much further to reduce these taxes. Approximately $200,000 for a potential municipal building roof replacement, as quoted by Mr. Bartlett. Trash collection and disposal is expecting significant increases in 2026. And $3.5 million bond for school repairs and upgrades that are being done to the Pearson School this summer. Now, the committee has stated that this will not impact 2025, but they cannot guarantee it won't impact 2026 and beyond. And purchasing this property would also result in the loss of over $23,000 in tax revenue for the township and school. All of these tax impacts are coming in before we even add this $3.6 million bond. How much will each of these affect taxes? Nobody can say. But I hope everyone can see how these things are already beginning to stack up. I haven't even mentioned the other expense increases coming, like the electric bill increase that we're all dreading. Who are we to decide how much of a tax increase is small or inconsequential? What is small to you may be unbearable to me. For a topical analogy, when the weather's getting hotter, you don't turn on the heat in your house. The idea that a small increase is assumed to be acceptable is kind of upsetting. I don't think we can make that decision for others, and I believe that is a very pertinent reason as to why this referendum is so important. Next is the lack of a plan. Now, I'm well aware that adding a plan would change the cost of the bond and its interest rate, so I don't want to focus on the lack of a plan for what to do with 401, but rather the lack of any contingency plans in the event that things don't go the committee's way. No contingency has been presented. No expectations for what happens if the land can't be sold have been outlined, and no strategies to minimize the negative impacts have been presented. Instead, the focus has been entirely on what would happen if things go perfectly. While I would love to assume things will always work out, I think everybody has had experiences where, despite how hopeful they've been, things just didn't go their way. And despite being made aware of how concerned residents are about this purchase, the fact that the committee still has not come up with a contingency plan to ease their minds is once again concerning. Finally, as I know there is a time limit I must abide by, I want to cover how the committee has handled themselves during this purchase. It's obvious how stressful this has been for the committee, and for certain moments I could absolutely see why certain tones were used or subtle comments were made. And I'm not here to comment on that. Instead, I want to talk about the communication and transparency. From the beginning, this purchase has been on an expedited timetable. That's indisputable. However, my issue is with the lack of community outreach regarding this purchase. Whether Mr. Ouellette had the incorrect numbers or not, why was he the only one who truly got the word out to the community? Why was he the only one to go out of his way to notify the public? The mayor is the admin of a Facebook group featuring over 5,000 members. Why were there no posts regarding it? Matt Bartlett is a group expert in that same group, also did not post about it. I think it is fair to say that this purchase, which is absolutely not normal, and probably one of the bigger topics our town has faced in a recent memory, is kind of deserving of some extra effort to inform the public. Additionally, when questioned in public forums, such as Facebook, instead of answering very simple questions, the committee either ignored them or redirected them to the, at the time, brand new township administrator, who was still getting used to her new position.
Just so you know, you have 30 seconds left.
Oh, appreciate it. In conclusion, I am not downplaying how people feel about truck traffic or the environment, but I wanted to ensure an equal representation of both sides. Taxes, contingencies, and clear communication are just some of my issues, and I would love to explain more, but I'm constrained by the time limit given. Regardless, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Mrs. Simonera, did you want to comment on kind of the budget and why we can't tell anybody what their taxes is going to be in 2026 and just how that process works a little bit?
Yeah, sure. What I can say, in some of those instances, Mr. Dasher, I know you had mentioned the roof, and that has been brought up as an estimate, just like we do for the roads and sidewalks. We have a 10-year plan for each. So we're always updating, and I say we, and I've only been here 3 weeks, but I really have had enough time to kind of dig in and look at the finances. That is just a proposal in the future. We have no idea. It's not something that's going to be done in the imminent near future. What I can speak to and what this governing body has done is, there was some old money sitting on the books. There's old improvement of the authorizations. There was old debt available. They went through and cleaned everything up. They canceled all the existing balances to actually make room for this. So while there's going to be an increase to the expenses next year, there's also room on the revenue side to offset some of this, if not all of it. They canceled in the tune of $390,000 worth of old debt that is now available to offset any increases going forward. We can use it in 1 year, we can use it in 2 years. So they have done due diligence in trying to free up some cash. And that is money that would have been spent on other things. So they've just prioritized it in this situation. I've been doing this for well over 23 years as a CFO. I've been doing government finance over 30. And what I was shocked at are the numbers. The debt ratio and what we're allowed to spend as far as debt versus what we are. We're allowed to spend 3.5% of the equalized value of what the value of the town. We're at 0.41%. I've never seen that in all my years. And I'm not saying just because it's available you need to spend it, but it just goes to show you how responsible they have been in the past. Your budget increases, again, around 2 cents every year, unheard of in this economy. And somehow in the past they've been making it work. So I'm still digging into the budget, look at the details, but I just can say from just strictly a number standpoint that they have already looked at the books and have done a lot to get ready for this purchase.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else want to comment quickly? No? And anybody else for public comment?
Hey, Dan.
My name is Joe Galvano, 211 Magnolia Lane. First, I want to say thank you to the committee. Hello, Doug. I know what it's like to sit up there. I appreciate everything you all have been doing to try to make this town as good of a town as we can have, so I appreciate that. Mine is not so much a statement. I just have some questions, and I apologize. I came in a little late if you repeated some of it or answered some of this already. You talked about the amount of debt on the books. How much debt do we have as a township on the books? Outstanding debt, approximately.
I don't want to guess.
Okay. The sole purpose, and while we get that answer, the sole purpose of this bond referendum is to purchase the land, find a better suitable use for the land, and sell the land. Mm-hmm. That's my understanding. Is that in a nutshell, right?
Correct.
The intention of the committee is not to hold the land, right? Okay. Are we financing this with 30-year debt? Can you explain the debt structure that we're using to finance this a little bit? Is it 30-year debt? Does it have call features? Can you tell me any of that?
It would be 30-year debt.
30-year debt.
30-year debt. I don't know, as far as I haven't gotten into whether there were call features or not.
30-year municipal debt usually has 10-year call protection, is typical in the finance space, right? So we know that. If this is such a short-term need, why are we issuing 30-year debt as opposed to 5-year municipal bond debt, where the interest rates are significantly lower, and you can have a call feature or a prepayment that you can apply to retire this debt much more quickly than 30 years. If we are successful, and I think you can be successful, because I think the intention of what you're trying to accomplish is correct. I support the intention. The root of my questions is I'm not so sure I support the way we're going to go about it in the financing end of it. So do we know how much debt we have on the
A
books?
little over 2 million.
A little over 2 million. Okay. So has there been a discussion about using short-term debt that when you sell this property, if you borrow it 3 years, you know, a 30-year municipal bond paper is roughly 5.25. I don't know if you've got guidance on what the interest rate is. Is that approximate, right?
I think anywhere from about 3.5% to 4% is what they're selling for right now.
Right.
On 30-year paper?
Yes.
I think that's off. If you look in the open market right now, a 30-year AAA rated bond pays 5.25%.
Yeah, the sewer authority, it depended, it was kind of varied, 3.5 to 5.25.
Okay, right.
They
So
were
right.
in between. We got
Right.
some at 3.5 and some at 5.25, and
Okay.
then we got some government that was 0.
Right. So at 5-year debt, you're roughly 2.5, 2.75. And again, back to the point of with short-term debt, instead of having 10-year call protection built into the bond, you could have maybe 2-year call protection. Has the committee explored using short-term debt, yes or no, and why or why not?
Wouldn't the interest rate be, yes, go ahead.
Okay. Again, I was not here back then, but we would definitely be looking at short-term notes.
Yes.
That, we're going to look at all financing options.
Well,
but-
I guess, but we just said we're using 30-year debt.
Well, we can. That was the numbers that everyone was going on in the previous, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the estimate.
Because
just to get a
that's useful
ballpark.
life, I believe, correct?
It is, yes,
Yes.
it's the useful life. But yes, we would definitely look at going out to notes first and see if that would be more beneficial. There was a financial advisor involved, so we would be doing that as well to make sure that we're getting the best, bang for our buck. I can tell you, we just did a note renewal, and the interest rate was net 3.74%.
For what term?
For a
what time?
note.
How long?
1 year.
1 year.
1 year.
1 year.
For how long? Well, how much? 3?
2.3, I believe.
3.74% for 1-year notes. So,
On 2.3 million, right? Is that how much?
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So unfortunately,
But again, so my question goes back to, as a committee, I think I think from where I stand, it's this process of how we finance this debt. And I would ask all of you to really think about, and I know it's a very short time frame, because for me, my vote depends on how you finance this. That's where my vote lies, on how you do this. If you said to me, Joe, we're going to do 5-year debt that has a 2-year call feature or a 3-year call feature, and we as a committee right now would commit that when we sell this property, we pay the debt off immediately.
Yeah.
See, for me,
Absolutely.
Of
but if you have
course,
30-year
absolutely.
debt, Matt, with a 10-year call protection, you can't call the debt.
Can't call it.
You have call protection. So you're issuing a municipal bond, is that correct? Or are you borrowing money from a bank? How is it being done? I mean, is it a municipal bond that anybody in this room could buy?
So the bond ordinance authorize the amount, right? Once you do that bond ordinance, you can do bond anticipation notes until you go to permanent financing. I fully anticipate, because of the flexibility the municipality wants to have to try to find a better use for this property, that for the reasons that you're stating, the professionals involved, and my partner's bond counsel, and there's a financial consultant involved, that we wouldn't immediately dive into the 30-year permanent financing. There would be most likely, especially in that first year, an effort to just do a bond anticipation note so that we can figure out, what our market is and how quickly we can get this back on the market.
There are a variety of lending options. I spoke to a lender today. And I come from a little bit of a lending background, and a little bit of a finance background. There are a variety of options. And when you have a short-term need, I would just implore you to explore this very, very carefully about how long you take this debt for and what you can, I would almost ask you right now to take a straw vote, but I don't think you would, that any proceeds from the sale of that process immediately pay off
Yep.
any outstanding debt that the township has. Whether it's existing debt of 2 point some odd million that you can get rid of, or again, properly structuring this debt so that there is no excessive prepayment penalty and that the call protection isn't so great that it, right? The cost of floating this bond is built in, whether it's a 5-year or a 30-year. There are, there are interest-only options. Again, same thing we do with our homes, right? I'm going to refinance my house, or I'm going to take out a short-term loan on my house. I'm selling it in 2 years. I'm not going to throw money at the principal for the next 2 years. I'm just going to throw it at the interest, because why would I take this money out of my pocket, right? I'm not looking to build equity over the next, right? So I would just say, and I would love to hear some, that's what I will come back to this meeting and hold your feet to the fire on, in terms of the debt structure. I really think, and I really hope, and I know that you'll sort of lead the charge on this, Doug, because you'll speak to council, but
Yes.
there has to be, there is a better way, there is the best way to do this from a financing perspective that allows this town to get back out from underneath of the 3.5 million quickly. So if it's $200 a year, I saw that number, right, thrown around, right? If it's $200 a year that it costs the taxpayer, if I do that for 30 years, that's ridiculous. If I do that for 3 years, I bet you I know me, and I bet you most of the people in here could swallow that for the right reasons, okay? I don't think we should be in the business of speculating on land. I think a lot of us are scratching our heads around 5.4 million assessed, 3.5 million purchase, okay? I'm sure you've answered that. I don't know if you've answered that question, but why would, you're in real estate, your land, you're professionals. It's a head scratcher to me, and I don't know if there's an explanation behind that. I know a lot of people have asked that question. Why do we think we're buying a property for $2 million below its assessed value? Why would a real estate investment company sell a piece of property for $2 million less than it's valued at?
I couldn't even tell you. They've never commented on it, right, Doug? I mean, what,
It's just illogical.
do you have some background on that at all?
So the appraisal is public record. We've shared that. And the appraisal company that was used is, in my opinion, the best, at least in Burlington County, if not beyond. McHale Associates out of Lumberton. So they're well respected. They've been around for decades. The company, I think, you have to understand, this is just my view, and I don't know the answer to the question you're asking with certainty, but when we rezoned the property from the original industrial zoning and took away the warehouse use and made the I-3 zone that did not permit warehousing anymore, the company Criterion that we've been dealing with was subject to that change, having just recently purchased those properties, and they sued us, right? So the first thing we did was reached out to them and said, let's sit down and have a conversation about what you could live with so that we don't get into an extended piece of litigation. What I was trying to do, and what the subcommittee and the whole governing body was trying to do, was not lose the whole rezoning, because if we lose to them, we lose the whole rezoning, and warehousing is back on the table for all the properties, not just this one.
And Criterion wanted to put a warehouse there.
They had proposed a warehouse
Yes.
there. They came back with the truck maintenance facility. So we had extensive discussions with them to resolve that litigation, preserve the I-3 zoning, and the solution was to pare down a truck maintenance facility and not have a warehouse on that site. I think because we developed a relationship with them through that process, they had just gone through the board hearing. Right after that, we reached out to them and said, hey, you know what, we're actually now interested in purchasing the property. They had sat through the board hearing just like everybody else. It was not pleasant. I wasn't there, but apparently it was a rough meeting. And I think their view of it was they look at it in terms of what did they just get approved, and what do they think that means to them in terms of dollars? What are they into it for? What are they going to get out of it? That first number they threw out was $4 million. And so there was discussion back and forth. Again, we had discussions, oral discussions with the appraiser just to make sure we weren't out of the ballpark. And they said, we think it's worth at least $4 million and probably more. We went back with $3.5 million. And I thought there would be further negotiation, and they agreed to it.
Okay.
I think, I don't want to, put too much emphasis on it, but I think the fact that they were trying to basically look at the situation and go, we're either going to be fighting with the town, or every time there's a complaint from the neighbor behind, we're going to have a zoning officer out on our property and our tenants are going to be complaining to us, or however that's going to work. I think there was just an effort to like, okay, what can we live with? How can we make this work?
And so if their offer initial sale was 4 million and you negotiated the 3, then that sort of makes me feel okay, right? That makes me feel okay.
Right.
They came to an agreement on 3.5. You got an appraisal, it's worth a lot more money, but we came to an agreement on 3.5, so.
And, I would say, again, I think that appraisal company's great.
I agree.
I use them for a lot of things over the years. I think they're very well respected. They came to the conclusion they came to. Since then, what I think is even more telling to me is in Delanco, so we've got a Delanco piece of property, the old Wallace paving site has also since gone under contract. And I don't know the exact number, but it's over $3 million.
3.6 it sold for.
Okay.
So, it's pretty good comparable.
Yeah.
And just a quick comment on that property. It was never for sale publicly. It was for rent back in January, I believe, or February. Another site listed it in January for $9,100 a month for rent. It was never listed for sale. Looks like it was an off-market sale, and then sold in March for 3.6.
Okay.
Just a quick note on that.
Similar size.
So I think you, again, not here to criticize the concept and the idea.
Right.
I told you what's crucial for my vote is that structure, because again, I would expect that if that property is sold, we have I don't want to see $3.5 million or $4 million go into the coffer, and we pay for that over time out of everybody's pockets with not a lot of use. The Fisher Canvas property is sitting there, right? We own that property, right? That's a property that we own. So
Right.
I worry about being in the real estate. We're not in the real estate business, but we are in the community building business. And I do think that what you're trying to accomplish makes a lot of sense. But again, and I'll say it for the last time, it's the structure for me that is the most important, because I think you have to be able to get out from under this debt as soon as possible, and you will get the support that you want if you can figure that out before the 29th vote. I will make just one other comment. I don't like to hear that the township is only losing X number of dollars. The school has to be, you have to say that the town is losing the full amount of the revenue for the 1 or the 2 year period of time. Because as a committee, you work closely with your school board, and if the school board is in trouble, then this group of people sitting here is in trouble, because we're going to be asked to pay for whatever trouble there is.
Sure.
So when you say that we're only losing 24,000 and it's 50,000.
No, it's 24,000. That's the full tax bill is 24,000.
Okay, but then it's stated that the town is only losing 8.
Yep.
Right.
The
So
town
township
loses
report. I just
7,
think-
the school loses 8. So
Right,
it's
so I just-
15,000.
I think it's 12.
You got to
I think it's
talk,
12.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
It should be talked about, just my
Right.
feedback.
I
It should
did
be talked
mention
about
that
as a whole
earlier.
number, because the school and the committee were all Delanco, right?
Right.
We're all Delanco.
Yep.
So
I did mention that earlier, Joe. You missed
I'm
it.
anxious, okay, so I am anxious. Again, thank you for what you do. I know it's
Thanks. Yep.
I know you commit a lot of time to this, and I hope that it turns out the way all of us want it to turn out.
Thank you, Joe.
So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
So just
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we should address Joe's comments, though, because we have, Joe, with Richard, and I'm sure we're going to do that with Deborah, that we have worked on that basis where we pay off. We do a lot of short-term notes, and that's why our debt is so little. I mean, a little
haven't-
over $2 million is really good for our township.
We haven't gone out to long-term financing. I couldn't
No.
even tell. It's always short-term notes, and you can do it up to 10 years.
That's what we do on this, and you
And that's what we should do on this, so that exactly, so we can pay it off as soon as we sell it.
And then if you make profit, and if you make
agree with that.
profit, it goes into your surplus.
Surplus.
And then that gets added to our budget and decreases tax
Or
increases.
that profit pays off the other $2 million and still has to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Right?
yes, so thanks, Joe. I don't want you to call out comments. I don't want to upset everybody else by doing
Yeah,
that. So,
thank you, but I just
thanks for your
thought we
comments.
should address it.
Mayor, can I add to the,
Sure.
So I think it's important, we're getting a lot of phone calls in the office, and we don't comment on pro, con, whatever. We stick with the facts. People preface, a lot of times when they call in, they say they're scared about 3.5 million in taxes next year, having to raise the and I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, just from people calling in. They think that the 3.5 million is due next year, and that's not the case. But I think you just brought up an important part. The 2 million that was just refinanced is on a bond anticipation note. And the other thing, Joe, if you remember when you were committee, on the bond anticipation notes, you only pay on the interest
Yes.
for 3 years.
Yep, interest
before you have
only.
to start paying on the principals. And the bond market is, so you go out to the bond market and you see what's out there and you get your best, you're out to bid, right? And you get the best that you can on that short-term note. So that first 3 years, there's not even in principal due, there's just interest due. And the thing is, you're watching the bond markets, because I don't know if you remember when interest rates were less than 1%. Okay, anybody who had long-term amortization on the useful lives went to permanent financing. That made sense at that time. So it's not like the committee and your finance officer and your administrator are watching the bond market, watching interest rates. We have a financial advisor who is watching and advising, hey, it would be good if, and that's only if the township committee keeps the property that we're looking at a long-term amortization. But I think one of the misconceptions that we're getting, with phone calls in the office is a lot of people think that the full amount is due like in 1 year, and that's just not the case. But the bond anticipation market, the bond anticipation note market, right now is, very favorable. And with this purchase, there's no principal due until the 4th year. So,
Right, thank you, Janice. That's important to point out, and I did have that in my notes here to address. And I believe the first year interest was about 120,000. Do you have that information, Deb?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you remember earlier, she said that we have $390,000 in bonds that were canceled and now sitting there. So that's 3 years worth of interest payments right there that no one would have to absorb. There would be no tax increase because we already have the money there. So I think that's important to point out. Just 3 years worth of interest is already covered. Anybody else want to comment on anything else with finance? I know it's our favorite thing to talk about.
Well, I guess we could just say that we just retired one administrator who was just an excellent in finance, and we've just hired one who is excellent in finance. So I think we're really in a good position to do the right thing.
Yeah. And on top of our CFO, who's excellent in
Right,
finance. So we really have some
So we have really good
strong
guidance.
finance guidance. And then, of course, our financial advisors, our attorneys
Our
who
attorneys, yeah.
do this for a living in the bond market. So I think we're really well protected. A lot of us up here understand the finances of the township and how this works. So we would do our due diligence and make sure we're getting the best financial scenario. So.
Yeah, and I concur with Mr. Galvano's comments. Get the money in, get it sold, get it off the books.
And pay it off.
And pay it
That's-
off.
I think we've
Retire
echoed that
debt.
since day one, that we never
100%.
intended to keep debt or carry long-term debt. And like I said, any profit that we would get would go into our surplus and then help alleviate tax increases in the future due to regular expenses. So, okay, let's move on. Anybody else have any comments?
Vera Darmo, 605 Hickory Street. First, I want to say thank you for letting Joe go over the 5-minute limit, because he did have a lot of stuff that I
It's
have
hard
no
to time
idea
you when
about.
you're going back and forth, so.
Yeah, no, that was excellent. And during COVID as a teacher, I had to learn all this technology I wasn't familiar with, but it can be done, So I hope that the committee can learn how to use that screen, because that's going to be like the joint land use people can teach you guys. So could someone from either our joint land use board or the committee come over to the maps and show me what trees are going to be left and show me a little bit about the traffic? And it's far away, but I'll video it so that people can see it when I post it, because can someone come up and do that, like about the traffic patterns, Like, I know that, Mayor Seuss, you said you didn't have the traffic study handy. You said that in Facebook comments.
I personally, on a Sunday, did not have it handy, right?
So now we're at the meeting. You got it handy?
I'm sure it's in our records. I don't
You
have
have
it
no
sitting up here on the
comment?
dais, though, no.
Does anyone want to talk about the traffic?
Fern, are they they're not my maps,
Yes,
that's not my documents, so.
They're the blueprints that were presented to, by Criterion from Bowler Engineering back in October. I picked the 3 or 4 blueprints that are there. Traffic or the truck route or tractor trailers coming in and out of 401 Creek Road shows on the blueprint that it's from Route 130. They can come in from there, make a left into the property, and then do whatever they need to do, and any exiting would come and make a immediate right-hand turn and goes back out to Route 130. The way the, I guess, pork chop or the way the entrance exit is designed, it doesn't allow them to make that left-hand turn.
Right. Yeah, just one comment on that, Fern. Yeah, I'm sorry.
They can't come in from 130? They can't come into the facility from Creek Road 130? Like, can they go from both sides into the facility?
I
Or
think-
only one side into the facility?
I think they could come in from Delanco Coopertown Road and turn right out front here at the municipal building, make the left onto Creek Road, and then turn into the facility, making a right into it if trucks were coming that way.
Okay, so Coopertown, and then where that big bunch of woods is right before Newton's.
You gotta talk at the microphone.
Right here.
They have to be able to hear you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, while you're getting up there, I'm sorry, Vera, let me just interrupt for 1 second, please.
ahead.
The Joint Land Use Board's resolution does not prohibit them having trucks come in from either way, whether it's up Creek Road from Coopertown, which could come from Burlington Avenue through the rest of the town, or from Creek Road out from 130. So they could come into the property any which way their little hearts desire.
Right.
That's correct.
And sometimes
Again,
they,
the blueprint that was presented in the traffic pattern.
I've seen
shows different.
Yep, I've seen that. I don't sit on the Joint Land Use Board, so I would call out why they approved it that way.
Well, who's gonna enforce that?
right,
It's not
sometimes,
enforceable.
some of the trucks are even on Union, I've seen them on Union Avenue in Delanco. I saw them where they had to actually back up because they couldn't make a turn. So the trucks are all over the town. So just because it says they're going to go one way or this way, they're all over town. And I'm sure other people have seen it too. I'm sure it's just not my eyes. There was a fellow who actually put it on Facebook the other day where the truck had to back up several times in order to make a turn, and he actually went over the curb anyway. So,
It's nice that public service has closed off access to Burlington Avenue coming over the bridge from Riverside between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. while they're doing the gas work out on the street because they've got Burlington Avenue blocked off.
Be nice if that could be done permanently.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Okay, so people can judge from their own experiences about the big tractor trailers coming through. I've seen, like a couple years ago, one instance that was really bad. So our residents can judge from their own experience. So in terms of existing trees that are going to be left, nobody wants to come here and do a little circle with their finger?
Vera, I'm not on the Joint Land Use Board. I saw the blueprints. I know that trees were an issue dealing with the property. I've got it there. Folks can come up and take a look at it, after the meeting, or if anyone can explain it better, that would be fine.
You have to talk at the microphone, Vera.
Yeah, okay. The wetlands? Is that, or the,
That little, okay, let me go here. The bottom of the triangle
yes,
is going to be untouched.
yes.
The trees aren't going to be clear cut. Clear cut means everything goes down. I saw that word used in the article that the Newton's Landing magazine had. They said that the woods was going to be clear cut. That's not correct.
This is the wetlands right here. This little patch hand looking thing is wetlands.
Okay.
That's the only
So that's going to be left, and that's a ways away from the path to the path to the Pennington Park. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vera.
Hi, good evening. My name is Lori Van Genderen. I'm at 318 Maple Avenue in Delanco. I'm here to comment on a couple of posts that were made on a website, and specifically how the information or misinformation, I think, that they provided with regards to the Joint Land Use Board. I was the chair of the Joint Land Use Board for 29 years. I retired from the board as of January 1st, but I was on the board when this project was, the application was brought before the Joint Land Use Board and was approved. These posts specifically called out members of the Joint Land Use Board who were absent from the October 2024 meeting when the application for 401 Creek Road was heard. And I don't know why whoever wrote these posts felt it necessary to call people on the board out by name. I thought it was very derogatory. And the reason I wasn't present at the meeting that night was because I was sick. I took time off from work. I was not in work that day, and it's not appropriate to go to a meeting at night after you've taken time off from work. And I was so sick I couldn't speak, so I wasn't going to run the meeting and subject my fellow board members to my sickness. So that's the reason I wasn't at the meeting. The post also state that the meeting on October 1st was the, and I quote, first opportunity for the board to shut down Criterion's truck repair and trailer storage plans. A planning and zoning board is bound to consider applications based on zoning and ordinances that are in place at the time the application is submitted and based on the municipal land use law. At the meeting on October 1st, the board heard the application, asked numerous questions of the applicant. In fact, I have a copy of the meeting minutes, which Beverly did. They're excellent. They point out all of the discussion that happened, and there was a detailed, lengthy discussion. These minutes, just for that application, are 11 pages long. It was stated by the board's attorney after the applicant presented their final summation that the application was a by right application for site plan approval. By right refers to applications that meet the zoning code and they're not subject to any special approvals such as use variances. So board members, when they are considering an application, they're required to consider the testimony provided by the applicant, and you have to base your decision on whether or not the proposed application meets the requirements of the zoning ordinances. One of the posts states that the Joint Land Use Board didn't want the truck repair. If they didn't want the truck repair and storage facility, they should have voted it down in the first place. Board members cannot deny an application simply because they don't like it. They must support their decisions with findings of facts and conclusions of law which are based on the record. The other misleading statement in the post was that the Joint Land Use Board had a second opportunity to stop Criterion's plans for a truck and trailer storage facility on October 29th. And at that meeting, which was the next meeting that the board had after they had the hearing on this application, was to memorialize the resolution. The board's procedure is to hear an application, act upon it, and then the board's attorney prepares a resolution. It's an official document which serves as the record of the board's decision. The vote on October 29th meeting was simply to memorialize or confirm the action taken on October 1st. It is not an opportunity for board members to vote to approve or deny the application. That was done at the October 1st. So that meeting and that vote that was specifically, again, called out in that post was simply a confirmation of what took place on October 1st. So I was very disappointed to see the misinformation that was put out there, and I just felt compelled to come tonight and clarify that on the record and in a public forum. So thank you very much.
Thank you,
Ms.
Lori.
Van
Thank you,
Grunen.
Lori.
And it's just a shame that the people who put this website together won't give their names and choose to remain anonymous and put this misinformation. Yes, but
Yeah.
they like to put misinformation out there.
Yeah, I did not appreciate that.
I concur with your remarks. Thank you for taking the time to explain that process, because I think a lot of people were under the assumption that if you didn't want something, you could just vote no, and they have, rules and regulations that govern them. They are a quasi-judicial board. So thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, Ann Moore, 222 Edgewood. I also have been on the board.
Into the mic, Ann, sorry.
I've been on the board longer than some of you were born. And as a board member, as Lori stated, we have to follow the land use regulations. We have to follow state standards. Anybody that lives in River's Edge knows that the parking is terrible. We had to approve that, even though we knew the parking wasn't adequate, because the state residential site improvement standards say a garage and the driveway in front of it count as parking spaces, and you can only have 2 parking spaces. If anybody looks at the minutes and looks at how the board members voted and why they voted, I stated that I had to vote yes. Basically on this one, our hands were tied because they met the zone, and that the rezoning to stop the warehouses was a better choice. What the township is proposing now is something that could be the best choice. And it needs time to grow and develop, and it would really be foolhardy for Delanco to not approve the referendum. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Thank you, Ann.
Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening, Rob Dancer, 1006 Hickory Street. With the traffic study, I'm not familiar with traffic studies. Do they normally come with estimates for number of trucks coming in and out of the facility? Or
Yes, so it's their
So-
proposed, like what they
does
estimate.
anybody have any kind of estimate of what they saw on the traffic study? Because one of my major concerns is that a lot of these things have been overstated, a lot of these concerns have been overstated, and we don't have any objective data to tell us there's going to be 2 trucks a day, there's going to be 50 trucks a day. It's really just left up to everybody's own speculation at that point. So does anybody have any idea? Anybody? If we've had a study done, it would have really been good to have that info previously, I guess.
I have to tell you, Rob, I don't put any merit into their traffic studies. They're done by the applicant's engineers.
Right.
They're just a best guess estimate. No one's
Okay.
holding them to the fire with that. Of course, they're always, I
But you
feel like,
guys
going to
also-
err
but
on
you guys
their.
also will keep telling us that there's going to be an increase in traffic, but you can't tell us how much.
Well,
So,
there's 124 trucks that are going to be allowed to park there, so.
but again, that still doesn't tell us how many trucks are
No.
going to be coming into town. You got people imagine there's going to be trucks coming in and out every minute there.
I imagine they want to turn the trucks as soon as possible to make the profit on repairs of the
Right, but
trucks.
we
so-
don't know what level
Correct.
of repairs they're going to be doing and all that
Correct.
either. But that goes along with the pollution too. I mean, we hear, I'm really afraid that a lot of this stuff is being overstated, and we don't know. We don't have any objective data to tell us that. But I guess we won't have that still, or? 'cause
I
that's
know
really
Mr.
one of the
Burke
big
has all
factors
the
in my
documents.
vote.
He could probably share that information with you, or you
Okay.
could, submit a request and
Yeah.
get
Okay.
that, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
Right. I just wish that was presented earlier on as we're telling everybody there's going to be an increase. Also, I do appreciate Mr. Heinold's statement earlier about the signs. I am disappointed in the committee members, though, of not looking at how the public would view that. You just looked at the legality of it and said, yes, we're going to put these signs out, say vote yes, without considering that there's probably a lot of people that are a little upset to see their money used to put up signs for something they don't agree with. So I just wish that the township committee members could really think about that next time, just not whether it's legal or not, but whether it's right or not. So,
Let's
thank
hope
you.
there's never a next time.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Thanks, Rob.
Carl Tarosky, 55 Pennington Court. I am a member of the Joint Land Use Board, and I am a member of the Shade Tree Commission. Unfortunately, I've only been here for a short portion of the meeting tonight, but I did hear Ms. Van Gendren's speech, and having been and still being a lawyer for the state of New Jersey since 1969, I can say that her interpretation of what was before us on the Joint Land Use Board at the time we voted for this is accurate, that we may not have liked that idea at all, but we were bound by what the regulations were at that time. Now, as far as the Shade Tree Commission, I speak for myself, not for the commission, but I understand something like 70 trees will be removed.
700.
700.
Okay. And the whole area will be blacktopped. Now, there was some talk earlier tonight about the bottom area, the swampy area. That blacktop will allow runoff from the trucks to run down and into that area. So that's a problem too, as well as the loss of the trees themselves, which will lose the ability for us to breathe better throughout the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you.
Scott Buick, Pennington Court, 18 Pennington Court. Boy, I don't know where to begin with all that I've heard. One thing I would like to mention, between Newton's Landing and the crossings, there's about 400 homes that are contributing to the school taxes. That comes over to like $2 million a year that the school is benefiting each and every year. And a lot of that may even be to partial fault of the pilot program that was instituted some 20 years ago. Fern, I think you and Mike were involved in that, which obviously cut school funding. It cut fire funding. It cut public funds funding, cut, and had to be made up somewhere else. My taxes here in Delanco are higher than what I was, per rate, are higher than what I was paying in Delran for twice the size of the house, 3 times the size of the property, and I had a full school over there from kindergarten on up to 12th grade. So I was paying basically less taxes over there than I am here. I hear about the traffic. It's not just about what goes in and out of this property potentially. It is, and I have pictures on my phone, I followed a tractor, a large tractor, just tractor, with no license plate, over the bridge coming into Delanco. I also followed a large tractor trailer coming into Delanco from Riverside. I also have a picture where a large tractor trailer came down Burlington Avenue from the schools on down and had a hard time making that turn on Burlington Avenue to go through Delanco. So now you have Amazon open in Cinnaminson, and there's another trucking company that's taking over the other half of it. There is a huge amount of traffic on River Road. It's all coming around here, and actually, you go yesterday or Saturday, my wife and I were on Taylor's Lane, and finally at the end of the third light, because we wanted to turn left to come north, we skirted over to the right to get across the street. It would have been 4 traffic lights for us to turn left. Now, yes, that's on Taylor's Lane in Cinnaminson, but I've had similar problems up by Lidle's, where a lot of these other trucks are going up there and turning. There's trucks everywhere you turn around. And now you're going to have, and basically FedEx and Carvana do their own repairs. And now you're going to have independents coming around, with all these warehouses. They're going to be coming in across the bridge through the town. God knows what they're going to have on their trailers, how they're going to be washed, what they're going to spill. This isn't just a trailer storage yard like across the street. This is a truck repair. And I've been in and out of trucking since I was probably, and I do say around it, since I was probably about 12 years old. I've been involved in the business. I've called on customers. I've called on over-the-road people. I've driven some pretty large cylinder trucks. I know what's on those trucks. Be careful what comes into that parking lot at all hours of the night. I don't think there's enough safety issues being addressed for the kids in the park, especially on the Field of Dreams. Something happens in one of those trucks someday and kids are on that park, it could become a field of nightmares very quickly. I mean, trucks with loads, be careful. Interesting on Delanco 411, if you go on their website, be careful. There's some security issues that come up on there, and you may be a target. I'm just putting that FYI out there. Yeah, it's a shame. There's a lot of trolls on the internet passing a lot of misinformation. This is a good deal for Delanco. This isn't something that Delanco wants to hold on indefinitely. It could be turned into something really good, and there's some people out here that just don't care, and they don't care what happens to it, and it's a sad situation. So hopefully this will get through. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Anyone else for public comment?
Good evening. I'm here for Michelle Carlo. She's my daughter at 301 Magnolia Lane. I'm her mom. I'm part owner of the property. Just so you know, I have a vested interest. I'm Eileen Carlos. Before I begin, I would like to know if anybody on the Township Committee has anything that they'd like to say to me or about me before I begin. Perfect. First, I'd like to commend Mr. Willett. My daughter called me in a panic. She's upset about taxes going up. She wouldn't have known anything about this. She contacted me, and from there, we did some review. It takes a lot. I've been in your shoes. You could see one half, and they go against the other half. Just because you're the singular doesn't mean you're wrong, and I commend you for standing up for the other side. Mr. Heinhold, I really appreciate you and your thoughts tonight. They're accurate, and McHale is one of the best, which leads me to what I heard on the internet with the meetings is that you're in real estate. Who here is in real estate?
I'm a real estate
You're in real
agent.
estate? Do you understand that when you have a tax appeal, you could not be a witness in a tax appeal? You have no bearing on value at all. So that's why they get an appraiser. You can always quote me if I'm wrong, Doug. So what it comes down to is taxes. The property itself was already holding storage of trucks, was it not?
Illegally.
Correct. And how long
Yeah.
did you know it?
Couldn't tell you, it was before my time.
When we got notification that it was, code enforcement went out.
So
And
living here, Kate, you've been here a long time.
Yeah, I have. And
You go door to door. I mean, God bless you. I really respect
I know,
and
I
appreciate
do.
you doing what you do for Delanco.
Yeah, and actually, it was, we finally realized that they were being stored because they were actually hidden behind the trees.
Correct. And so one of the joint land use things that they have to do is that they make sure, usually to replace things. These 700 trees we're talking about, are they going to be replaced?
If they,
With regards to what?
Do they have anything written in, I haven't read the land use board.
No.
Do they have a position where they need to replace the trees?
Yes.
That they're taking down? So they
No.
are being replaced
Yes.
and that wasn't mentioned?
You're talking about when the truck repair facility is built.
no.
You're
Okay.
talking, yes, they do. They said they're
Ann just said no.
That's-
yeah, the trees were being replaced.
Correct.
Oh.
And that, because
With-
I also
With brand
put,
new small trees, yes.
yes, because I do have comments online
Oh,
that said,
okay.
you know, you could use your
Interesting.
tree commission as well. they got an $80,000 grant last I knew, whether or not they put, this was a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
And they could be, if they haven't used it already, if they have
We've
already done.
limitations.
That
been
grant's
planted,
done, yeah.
Okay. So the thing is that when we're talking about taxes, we're talking about revaluations, reassessments. A lot of people were concerned about a reval or reassessment. Has anybody had that concern at all on this board?
We haven't had one for quite some time.
That's
The
number
county
one.
usually calls that.
So you're going to rely on the county to tell you when to do it?
Yeah, we don't usually do that. The county does that.
All right, so that means that the school doesn't get to collect their tax dollars.
The school is actually doing quite well since our taxes have gone up. I mean, they're getting much better tax because of the new construction in town, because of the warehouses. They're getting more money than they were. Actually, because the roof repair, that bond ordinance, there's no increase in the school taxes this year with that bond ordinance because the money they're receiving with the additional tax base is paying for that so
In fact,
far.
their taxes went down this year.
So the additional tax base, they're paying more money than the people before them?
Yeah, they
So
are.
that's an
Well,
equity?
no, there was an
That's not
additional
accurate.
building,
Okay,
no.
you can correct me.
Added assessments,
Added
Added
assessments
assessments,
right?
with the new
You know how that
buildings.
works. So it doesn't mean that the ratio is necessarily off. It just means that there's an added assessment. There's a new tax base coming on.
Right, and I understand the added assessment.
And I just want to correct one other thing, or at least clarify it, make understand. The school always gets the school sets a budget. It always gets its tax dollars, right?
Yeah.
They always do.
Yes.
But it's based on a ratio as well.
Right, but there's, okay. But, so is the criticism that the ratio
There's
is
no
off?
criticism other than, there's not a criticism, there's a lead to the point, and the point being that $70,000 is being spent on the special election. When they needed 75, you said no. And so you were speaking about
The school
being-
district never asked us for $75,000, so that's an incorrect statement.
That's not true. Mr. Bartlett was one that did not want to give them that 75. when they
Excuse me?
wanted- This was a
When
couple
was
years
this?
back.
Please.
The school
This
district
was a
never
couple years
formally
back, and
asked
this
us
was
for
what-
$75,000.
They went out for a referendum instead.
Not instead, that's what they chose to do. They never approached us and asked us for money.
This isn't really an argument. This is not, it's
That's
Actually,
a fact, that's a fact.
correct. It's
In
a fact.
2020,
I can-
I'm sorry, Kate, let me just answer Ms. Carlos's question there. Back in 2020, I'm losing track of years, 2021, I believe it was, when there was additional funds from Living Springs that were found for the
$50,000.
for the monies that came in. I was actually one of the few people who supported that, giving the money to the school. And if I remember correctly, I remember Mr. Templeton was against that, Ms. Holland was against that. I don't remember if Fern was for or
And
against
that's another
that.
problem I have. Earlier, Kate, you mentioned that Mike Templeton started all this. Well, he's not here, and that's hearsay. So it's unfair to make a statement to the public, and Mike's not here to defend himself. So how does
Our
the public
attorney
really
could,
know?
our attorney could collaborate with that.
attorney
He reached out to our attorney, so
Well,
that
he
he
also
collaborated.
abstained from the
It's
vote,
also not a
right?
legal proceeding.
No.
Did he
It's not a
also-
legal proceeding,
doesn't
so we
Did
can.
he also abstain from the voting?
He voted yes initially
voted yes.
to approve the purchase
Yeah, it's in the
on
minutes.
the first matter, and then I can't remember, I think he
In
voted no
December, he
thereafter.
abstained.
Correct.
Abstain, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right.
You also, he was also part of that 200 Ash Street that you purchased? Recall
Is that
that?
a question?
Is that a
200 Ash?
question?
What the public needs to understand is that you're saying you're going to flip this, flip it real quick, and you're not in the real estate business to buy property and flip property. I'm not sure the line that it draws for a
Well-
township committee to be in the real estate business. However, 200 Ash, there was a buyer at the time, still refused, then you paid for the demolition, and now you still own it. You haven't flipped it.
Oh, no, because we, actually, I think we used Green Acres sort of with that, I think.
Well, it didn't say it was Green Acres.
I don't think the intention was to have her flip it. It's going to
It
be
was
a
never
park.
to flip it, it's gonna
No.
be open space park.
Well, it wasn't that way when it was first purchased, and there was a buyer. There was a buyer at the time.
We didn't know, I have to admit,
My
I didn't
only
know there was another
recollection-
buyer.
My only recollection, I don't know about a buyer in the market. I do remember a developer approaching the township and expressing an interest to put in 16 apartments on the site or something like that.
Exactly.
Right, because it's 5,000 square feet per,
let me just clarify a couple of things, and we'll give you more time.
That was before my time.
You're saying that somebody who is in real estate has no ability to testify at a tax appeal hearing on value?
No, I did not say that.
So what was the point then? What's the
That
comment?
you need an appraiser.
Of course, right.
And
So
values matter, and that if an appeal went before the board, the
so
validity.
Okay, let me stop you.
You know where I'm
We're
going.
not in a tax appeal, right?
Right,
Okay, so that's not applicable. We're not in a court proceeding, correct?
correct, but you
What
might be.
what we're talking about is providing information, right? So if somebody says they have a real estate background, that's not
I'm not gonna
irrelevant,
Yeah,
right?
but I'm not going to debate that.
No, but
whether
you're
it's
trying to make a
relevant or
point and
irrelevant.
say that somebody who said that they're in real estate has no merit to speak on the issue.
On the value
But-
during a tax appeal as a
But
witness.
that's not what we're here for. That's not what the issue is. But beyond
Let me-
that, the
I can get
person
to
who
the
has the real estate background has also gone to the measure, as does the full governing body, to get a real estate appraisal, correct?
Correct, but that's not the point. It's still not my point.
If you can
okay?
make the point, that'd be great.
My point is that you're getting a property, 5.3 million, for 3.6. That's wonderful, okay? What if you don't flip it? Because what will be the new zoning? The new zoning is going to be the I-3 without warehouse? What's the new zoning
The
after you
I-3
purchase it?
The I-3 is already in place.
It's already,
So the township has to go through a process to buy the piece of property, to bond for that piece of property.
We
The
like
general, well, I'm not sure everybody does, the general municipal purpose is the statement as to what it is. In other words,
Well, what is it?
If you let him finish, he would tell you, so
I
please
mean,
let him finish.
I don't need a whole story.
Let
'cause we
him
heard the
finish.
story.
Have some respect for our attorney and please let him finish.
I have
think-
all the respect.
let
I just
me-
want to get to the point.
Let me just explain, though. If we said, for example, we're going to keep it as open space, we're now restricted. There's nothing, we can't remove it out of open space going forward. So typically what happens when you purchase the property, you state a general municipal purpose. Kate, when we started the meeting, I don't know if you were here for her discussion, when the mansion was purchased, same thing. You pass a bond ordinance and you state it's for general municipal purposes. After that process is done and you've actually secured the property, then you can go through the process of parsing out what the best solution is for it. Using the mansion example, originally there was speculation, could we keep the property? Could we do it for some municipal use? Could we do, historic was interested in it? What came to bear was clear that the amount of maintenance required for that older building was more than the township could garner in any sort of income that would come out of the property. So then the exploration became, what do we do now? Let's talk to the market and figure out what their ideas are. That gave the town the flexibility to say, okay, this would be acceptable, this would not be acceptable, how much are they willing to pay, all those variables. Somebody could have come up with a great idea and the township maybe doesn't make all its money back, but it's the best long-term solution, the township can do that. The township could take an opportunity and say, you know, we're going to rezone this for residential. We're going to put buffers in place to make sure that it's suitable for the area and try to make it more consistent with that side of Creek Road. But all those options are on the table because the general municipal purpose has been stated. If the municipality says, we're going to do precisely this, then it's got to do that with the financing going forward. So that's why that happens that way. The other thing I will say too is that as the mansion played out, the riverfront was ultimately retained by the township, became a public park. So there's discussion about rezoning this property away from industrial. That whole side used to be industrial, right? Everything that sort of got changed around it changed away from industrial to the residential uses, to the Field of Dreams. And this, Fred Kennedy's old piece, stayed in the center of it. So the idea is to get it out of industrial and get it more consistent with those uses. But we can't handcuff the municipality by saying we're going to do open space, we're going to do precisely this or precisely that. We've got to go through that process and have all the options on the table, because as soon as we lock in and say it's only going to be this, then that's all it's ever going to be. In addition, the county has already expressed interest in some of the land closest to the creek if this transaction goes through. So there may be more than one, some acreage may be subdivided off, and some of that may go in a deal with the county where we pick up maybe some acreage over by the Field of Dreams from the county that's usable for active recreation. So there's a lot of, potential there. It's not something that we can say today, unfortunately, this is precisely what's going to happen, because I can't tell you how that's going to exactly play out. We need to have all the options on the table so we can find the best solution.
So it possibly can be not resold just to the public. You would resell it to the government, the county, and then negotiate with them on how much money they would be paying for that parcel?
No, so I don't want to confuse issues here. And I'm not saying this is going to happen. I want to be very clear about that, everyone. I'm not saying this is going to happen. The county has expressed interest in some of the wetland area closer to the creek. The county also has other land closer to the park that they'd be willing to swap. They're not talking about buying Delanco property at X amount of dollars. What would be left over is the uplands portion closer to the street frontage, and that would be what would be explored for more suitable uses than what has been previously permitted on that site.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to make sure I heard you correctly. So if you swap, does that mean that the Delanco would retain that $3.6 million bond and need to pay it off by just swapping, or are you swapping?
Not talking
You're
about
not
swapping the
swapping
whole
debt,
property.
right?
It really has no impact on the debt, except that the township is getting possibly usable acreage
Okay.
as opposed to wetlands.
So that would basically answer Joe, where it's like, well, do this quick, but if you're going to swap, that means you retain that 30 year.
Eileen,
Okay.
I just want to clarify you. That's not
But
what
that's
that means. That's not what that means.
Well, that's why I'm asking you, did I
Yeah.
hear you correctly?
No. The main effort, again, I'm not saying that the county swap is going to occur. The main effort is going to be what is a more suitable zoning for that site. It's already an area declared for rehabilitation. We have the ability to go out for RFPs to request from the market what would be suitable for that site, and to fully reject all those proposals or accept one of them and start working with a redeveloper to redevelop that site in a more palatable way that doesn't create the same issues that are being presented by what this industrial site has created.
In that rehabilitation, would there be a pilot? Possibly?
My expectation is no, and I'll say this, again, I can't bind future governing bodies. I don't know what happens a year from now, 2 years from now.
We'll just deal with current.
But this is getting very off topic, but I'll address it as quickly as possible. 20 years ago, when all this property in here, nothing was happening with development, not only in Delanco, but all up and down the Route 130 corridor, there was a lot of redevelopment designation occurring and a lot of pilots being done to try and draw in what we call ratables, things that are going to contribute to the tax base without putting a lot of demands on our services, schools, et cetera.
And why was that happening? Because the county had an initiative.
The county
and
did,
encouraged it.
And I'm not even saying wrong, right, or indifferent. It was what was happening at the time.
Economic development.
And it was, municipalities were competing one against each other, other regions, to try and draw in industry. Fast forward 20 years, the warehousing industry, I would say, really from just before pre-pandemic through pandemic time, within a 5-year span, in my view, changed completely, right? The intensity, the truck traffic, the uses associated with that became much more impactful than they had been in the past. And so the pendulum swings, right?
Yep.
You go from a time period where the governing body at the time was trying to draw business in. We had Decent Watson for a while, all those issues, right? Since then, these properties, I'll make sure I'm orienting myself right here.
It's okay, I probably would have went that
The
way.
warehouses right here, when they came in, they made a big pitch asking for a pilot. And the governing body said no. So that's, to me, was the pendulum's already swinging the other way. Either if you're permitted to build it and you can build it, but we're not going to, try and attract you here with additional financial incentive.
Right, because then it became an overburden, and now you have empty
It
warehouses.
was starting to trend that way. I
Right.
don't think they certainly built it thinking it would be sitting empty, right?
I honestly don't care if they're empty or full. They're still paying full taxes regardless. So I think it's better that they're empty.
Which is a perfect point on this property as well, whether or not it draws in taxes for the bottom line.
So let's give you like a minute and a half
I really do
left.
appreciate that, Doug. Just, I'd like to give you a little poke.
Eileen,
just to
you have
poke-
about a
I'm
minute and a
sorry.
half left.
I'm sorry, but the other guy before me had a conversation and you didn't count
This
that
has
in,
been
so
19
I would
minutes now.
appreciate the same respect as Joe.
Yes, a minute and a half left.
Thank you. So the trailers were already there, nobody really knew about it, and now really the discussion is about whether or not there's a repair shop going there. And so the repair shop will maintain itself, whatever, and bring in the tax revenue, and nobody's going to know it's there because we're going to have trees around it, or they're going to be planted anyway. The reassessment, reevaluation, what will you do if the county calls on you to do that next year? It's a question and a statement. The fact remains is that that's going to be another uproar for you to deal with, because then changes will be made, and you don't know how this is going to affect your property. So I would tell you to do it, because you're under 85% at 64 plus, and you really would need to take care of that business. The other thing is, the sale of 401 was an NU-24. Does anybody know what that means?
Marked unusable.
Okay, so an unusable sale. So the $2 million that's quoted really does make it unreasonable, and Mikhail is very good at what they do. I would definitely tell the audience that he's very good. So 5.3. I would imagine you'd want 5.3 million to come back into your coffers, not 3.6. That would not only write off that, it could write off your other $2 million. So why you would buy it at 3.6 and then turn around and sell it at 3.6 would make no sense. But I'm here again on behalf of my daughter because she wants to vote no. She doesn't want any taxes to go up. She's already had enough with the schools on top of that. And since it's already been quoted that taxes will go up, and since there's a revaluation sitting at your doorstep, I would definitely recommend that you would not want to do this. So I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Doug, have we heard anything from the county about a reevaluation? Janice,
No, there's
anyone?
no proposed
Thank you.
order or pending order. Actually, as we were going through the end of that discussion, I'm looking right now at ratio by town for the full county. And as a general picture, almost everybody is in the 60% range. There's a couple of outliers, some lower, some higher, but the predominant figure across the county is in the 60 percentiles.
Thank you. Yes, hi.
Steve Schofield, 230 Walter Avenue. I want to ask Carolyn if you can give me 1 minute, a little bit off topic.
As long as you're under 5 minutes.
Thank you.
You're good.
Doug educated me when I came in, when you were purchasing the Ash property. I had asked him why we couldn't use open space tax to do that. He explained why, and now I understand how that works. I did not know until recently that that became open space. We had a bond for that. So was that bond paid off when it became Green Acres?
It's a finance question. I couldn't tell you. It was only a couple years ago. I think it was only like 200 and some thousand dollars, so.
It was like a little,
Well, if it wasn't, we have open space tax. Can't that open space tax now pay that bond off?
believe there's enough in our open space account to pay that off.
Okay.
We don't collect probably only about 78,000.
I think it's up to
a year.
85 now, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for open space, but yeah, it is gonna be open space, and it's on our Rossi list already.
Right. Yeah, I just learned that at your grand opening. Joe asked the main question that I wanted to ask was, I always read your notes. I tend not to come to the meetings anymore because I get too stressed out.
Me too.
Same, Steve.
Yeah. I read all the times when you bond something. You know, we purchase a new vehicle, you do this, you do that. I never see when something's paid off. So I was happy when Joe asked, and I'm going to ask the question again to make sure I heard right, was how much money, outside of your normal operating expenses, how much money does the township owe?
$2.3 million. That's our debt.
And is it Debbie or Deborah?
Either one. Mrs. Seminara works too.
You had mentioned that you find that to be one of the best ratios that you
Yes,
have seen.
yes.
Okay.
I was surprised.
The other thing that Joe was the first one to talk about was the bonding. I'm hoping you guys had already knew that and you were just going to get the best rate that you could get. I respect the process. Fern had every right, and whoever worked on that, because it's a law, to do the pension, petition, excuse me, and he had every right to do that. I don't like the criticism that went towards Fern. I was on the border. I let him put signs on my property. Kate, you didn't ask me this time. But what I've heard tonight, I believe I'm going to vote yes to buy the property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Anyone else for public comment? Going once, sir?
Mike O'Donnell, 17 Emery Way. I've been on a land use board years ago, and I was sitting on a committee like this for a small borough town in Pennsylvania. I was the oddball out for a big decision on burning our trash. Turned out that the oddball out was right, but be that as it may, it cost the town too much to burn it, but they were already locked in. But that being said, I respect what the board is doing with the finances. I've only been here for 7 years, but I can relate to what you have to go through, and I appreciate the income to debt ratio and all that that's being done. I have a couple questions for whoever put this out. So if anyone here is responsible. The key reasons to vote no. I think I have a couple of them. The no clear plan. Can anyone suggest to me that what is the no clear plan? I think we all heard tonight the plan is to resell the property for a profit. So can anyone explain to me why this has no clear plan?
No, we're not doing that. We're not
Okay.
answering questions
All
from the
right, then I
audience.
won't ask the rest.
Mr. Olet was part of the handing out the flyers, so maybe he could answer your question if he chooses to.
Is
or
there
not.
As we've gone through this process, more and more things have come forward and have been brought to light. So, you know, when things were put together by the group for the no vote, the clear plan wasn't there. And now things have changed in looking at, possibly housing, possibly the change in swapping lands with the county. It's not concrete, but more and more information as we've gone through this process. Folks asking questions, feedback, dialogue, more and more things have come to light.
Okay, and
Real quick, hold on one second. Fern, you were in the same meetings we were in. We aren't doing any backdoor dealings here. You've known from Jump Street that this has been our intention. We all went out to the property, looked at it. Maybe it would be something for Public Works. We could retain it for, a community center. We had all the options on the table. But you sit in these executive sessions that we all sit in, and you understand our plan. I even asked you what you would like to see happen to it if it goes through, and you were on the same page as us. You said the exact same thing. We would like to see the age-restricted housing. So please don't sit here and act like you just found out, in the last couple weeks that this was our plan. You have been in the same meetings as us.
And these flyers were just put on the door last weekend, so
Right.
nothing has changed in the last week.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kate. Did you want to say anything?
No, I wanted to say the same thing, that we, all of us, the 5 of us up here, have always discussed the same plan.
Yeah.
That it was never that we were going to keep the property in total. We had hoped to maybe retain the front portion, get a contractor to develop the back portion. Maybe he could help us develop the front portion for something the residents could use in town, for their use, for, history board, recreation, something, but never, it was never kept a secret.
No.
It was never kept that we were going to keep it for nothing, never total open space, but to try to use it and to sell it to make a better use of the property. And you knew that all along. We discussed that. We
Yeah.
always did.
The plan has always been to have a better rateable and not to preserve the property, not to keep it industrial. So what does that leave? It leaves a better rateable in a residential zone. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but I had to clarify that. Go ahead.
thank you. The next two, probably the possible environmental risk, I really don't understand where that came from. Keeping the property with 700 trees on it and no additional macadam, how can that be an environmental risk? As opposed to a property with 150, 160 trailers that are leaking fluids on blacktop that goes towards the creek is not an environmental problem or environmental risk?
Not only that, we had environmental testing done to make sure the site was safe. I'm not sure if that's what they're referencing. I couldn't speak, but we did have environmental testing done, and there was no contamination on the property from any of the illegal uses or any of the legal uses.
No, I'm just saying.
Yes, but I'm just trying to
Possible
understand, maybe
environmental
that's what
risk.
they were talking about.
I don't
I
understand
couldn't
that.
even tell you, honestly.
So I know I'm running out of my time, so
No, you're good. Go
let
ahead.
me just say, the joint use people clarified some things for me, but I still don't understand why all the contingencies were made. But, so let me just go to one of the signs out on the roads is that this is a fact, Delanco. What they're missing is that truck traffic will increase. That's been covered. In fact, the other day, I sat at Bridgeboro Road and Creek Road for one tractor trailer to make that turn. And there was a line of cars behind me, and only that tractor trailer made it. That was it. So now you're going to have somebody towing a disabled tractor trailer. That's going to take longer for these turns. The truck noise, that's another thing. 700 trees we covered. Wildlife will be affected. That's a definite. You cannot blacktop all that acreage and say wildlife are going to go somewhere else. Air pollution will increase, especially next to where the kids are playing. And if they're cleaning chemicals, that odor is going to go towards the ball fields. We don't need that for our kids. Little or no property tax value that's wrong, because we're going to resell the property. And just like you did down at the mansion, you benefit from that tax.
Just
And I'm
30
sure it'll be
30
better.
seconds left, just go ahead. 30 seconds left on your timer, that's just want to let you know.
All right. The investment for Delanco's future at an average cost, and we didn't come up with that, but I'm sure it's going to be minimal. But tonight I heard that it could possibly be not only this year, but could be deferred another year or two, depending on what was said with. So is it necessary and environmentally responsible as a community not to approve the sale of this property? We have to do it because of all the things I mentioned above. It's not responsible.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
I think this pen is better. I'll just take the one.
Oh, help yourself.
That's your parting gift.
So just to clarify your question there, the interest, we only need to pay interest for the first 3 years of the note. So that's what that means. Anyone else?
Zaire Carter, 19 Font Court. First, I just want to thank the committee and the township staff for your time and your effort and your service throughout this process. I know public service can often feel like a thankless job, so I want to personally express my appreciation for the work that you've done, especially when the issues have been this complex and the emotions are running this high. Before I get into my official remarks, I'd just like to start with a quick question to clarify something that was said at last Monday's meeting. And I don't know, Madam Mayor, or maybe Doug, you could answer this. And I'm sort of paraphrasing here, but there was mention that Criterion wouldn't have even considered waiting until the November election. And just for my clarity, and for those who are here and watching at home, could you just sort of clarify what Criterion sort of said when we asked them if the November timeline was a possibility?
Mr. Heinold?
So we negotiated a First Amendment to the agreement. The terms of that First Amendment are what was agreeable to both parties. They obtained their board approvals last year. So October, I think, Ms. Van Genderen said earlier, of 24, they got their board approvals. Immediately after that, we started negotiation with them to acquire the property and do our due diligence about price. Okay. And then as we went through the process, the bond petition was filed. We notified of the bond petition. They could have said, we understand the difficulty, but we're not waiting. We're going to move forward. They didn't, thankfully. But they were also not willing to wait until November. They either want to move forward because they're just sitting with property that's not making them any money right now, right? They're carrying the cost of it. They've already invested a lot of money into it. So they didn't walk away, but they would not wait until November. We also had the difficulty, and again, which made it more difficult to come to an agreement on the First Amendment, was we couldn't compensate them anything else, because to compensate them anything else, we'd have to pass another bond ordinance, and we'd be caught in this circle that we'd never get out of. So they have allotted the amount of time to see if this is going to get approved by the voters, and if it doesn't, my full expectation is that they're going to be back on track saying we want to move forward with the development.
Okay, so just for clarity, we said, hey, can you wait till November? They said, not going to happen.
Right.
Got it. Okay, thank you. So these past few months have been a lot. I think many residents, myself included, are looking forward to when this is all behind us. But before we get there, I just wanted to share sort of why I got involved in the first place. Sort of before the signs, before flyers, before brochures, before vote yes or vote no, it just started with something simple, and that was making sure every resident had the chance to vote. All right, that's what pulled me in, not to push a specific outcome, but to protect the process, because democracy isn't about guaranteed results, it's about guaranteed access. And it's about people having a say, and that's worth, I think, standing up for. My personal opinion on this purchase didn't form until we got further through into the process, specifically when I saw how much resistance there was to simply putting this to a public vote. I mean, that didn't sit right, because from my perspective, more discussion, more participation, more voices, those aren't threats to democracy, that is democracy, right? And I struggled to understand why that idea was met with such pushback. And most residents weren't expressing mistrust in the committee, they were asking to be included in a significant decision. While I respect that each of you may hold strong opinions about this, it felt concerning that when the public said, hey, we'd like a say in this, the response seemed to be, but why? If democracy is functioning as it should be, the answer to that question should always be because it's your right to have one. Now, has this process been perfect? No. But democracy never is. It's messy, it stirs up debate, disagreement, passionate views, but it also sparks something else, something positive, and that's engagement, civic conversation, people paying attention. And that's a good thing. An engaged community is a healthy community. And Madam Mayor, I'd like to echo something that you said last week. And we disagree on many things, but on this we are aligned. Personal attacks, they have no place here. Disagreement is healthy, disrespect is not. And we can do better, and I believe we are better than that. So regardless of how this vote turns out, I'm going to sleep well knowing that every resident had the opportunity to speak through their vote. To me, that is the real win here. Not the outcome, but the process. Because democracy isn't about certainty, it's about choice. And this time, that choice belongs to the people. That's worth protecting, that's worth being proud of, and that's worth fighting for. So as we enter this final stretch, I know tensions are high and people are passionate, and rightfully so.
1 minute, Zaire. 1 minute.
Got it.
Just out of respect, letting you know.
Thank you, Vera. This is a significant vote on July 29th. It's about the future of our town. We've discussed a lot of the issues today: trucking, environment, affordability. It's also about whether people can or even want to stay in this community that they love and that they call home. That's real, that matters. But what happens on July 29th is just as important as what happens on July 30th. Because once the ballots are counted, Delanco will still be here. Your neighbors, the ones that you agree with and the ones that you don't, will still be here. These meetings will go on, life will continue, and as it should. Our differences can make us stronger if we don't let them to divide us. And at the end of the day, we're still one Delanco. And this past weekend's waterfront park ribbon cutting, I think, was a perfect reminder of that. Neighbors coming together, families enjoying the river, kids laughing, coming together to celebrate Delanco. That's the spirit of community that makes this town special. It's not just the views of the Delaware River or even the Viennese pizza, or else I'd gladly advocate for both of those. It's the people. And that's what community looks like, and that's what matters. So I'll close with this. I want to thank the committee for their service. I want to thank residents who stayed engaged, especially those who have even challenged me. No matter where you stand, your voice matters and your vote matters. Decisions are made by those who show up. So let's show up, let's speak out, and when the dust settles, let's remember we still share the same streets, the same school, and the same hopes for our futures. Let's move forward together, not as opponents, but as neighbors, as one Delanco. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zach.
So I understand what you're saying about democracy, and I appreciate that. That's what our government's based on, right? But misleading information is dangerous to democracy. And unfortunately, there was misinformation given to the public in December, which caused a packed courtroom as far as the wrong finance information.
Yeah,
So-
a decimal point in the wrong place is what you're saying created this whole thing. A decimal point.
That's not what
And
I
when
said.
Everything else was put together by the administration and the township committee. Those 3 pages of information were on our website. Those were my notes, and the decimal point, when I looked at it, I said, oh yeah, that doesn't look right. Oh, yeah, I remember back when I was doing math, you're supposed to move the decimal point over 2 places. When I did that, again, my worksheet, it was correct. And so, yeah, was I wrong for thinking that everyone else did the same math the way I did? I was incorrect in doing that. It was Mr. Bartlett who said, hey, Fern, why don't you just take the decimal point out and it'll be right? And, so thanks, Matt, for sharing that. But, again,
I don't think we ever had that conversation, but okay.
If one decimal point created all this, so be it.
So
But
to finish
everyone
my
got-
statement, Fern,
I'm sorry,
the
ma'am?
point was, to finish my statement, was you let all the residents know what was going on in December. Okay?
Mhm.
You let them know, you gave them all the information. Yes, your decimal point was off. I'm not focusing on that. My point is that you let the residents know what was going on. They came out, they were aware of it. They spoke their piece. Then we moved forward with the process to empty meetings. No one was here yelling and screaming that this is horrible, what are you doing? In fact, you voted yes for it in February because there was no outrage. So you supported the process. That's why we moved forward with it. Even though every resident knew about this in December, where were they at all these meetings that are posted and shared on Facebook, and emails and agendas are shared? There was no outrage. It only became a problem in April. That's my point. I wasn't even going to focus on your decimal point. That's a moot point at this point. My point was the information was shared in December. That's my point. Anybody else for public comment? No, it's one per person. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Charles Gross, 35 Walton Way. Given what the last gentleman spoke, I wanted to get up and just give an opinion as far as what I see is the greatest and best use of the property going forward if the township were to take control, and that is the one of redevelopment and what the opportunities exist with the property if that were to take place. I think it would be a win-win situation for the township, meeting certain obligations that they might have from a housing standpoint, be able to select a use that has minimal burden to the township services, could use federal funding so far as a tax credit opportunity to come in and produce the property. It appeals to community values, preserves, we could preserve community character through a design of a trusted and a relationship with a developer to partner to create a project that beautifies the community. It might provide an opportunity for our older population to stay in a community they love, close to family, friends, and familiar environments. An issue that we all need to be cognizant of is the fact of the demographic shift as our citizens continue to age. We'll find that baby boomers 65 and older will outnumber other age groups by the year 2050, and that it's incumbent upon us and our communities to make sure that there's an opportunity for seniors to live in their communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Mr. Gross.
So just to circle back real quick about the decimal point. I mean, it is a big deal to have a decimal point issue, but I think really what I was more upset about is that the no opposition, Fern, that you're supporting, saying that there was no plan. I kind of mentioned that earlier when you knew there has been a plan, as you've run the same meetings as us, and then making it seem like we were doing something shady when we've done everything by the letter of the law. No. Excuse me, Vera. Vera, excuse me. Excuse me.
You made yourself.
Vera, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not going to allow any more outbursts. One more outburst and you're out the door.
Go ahead, call the police to take.
Making it seem like we were shady it's very upsetting because, like I said, the way we've advertised meetings, the way we've done the process has been to the letter of the law. So I'm just going to continue and move forward at this point. I'm not going to continue to harp on the past, but that's all I have to say about that. Anyone else have any comments before we close the session?
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. I hear, not just in Delanco, it seems to be a common sort of refrain that whatever the law is, you should have done more. And that is a mountain that is never, a peak you can never reach. The law requires what it requires, and we do everything we can, and we do abide by that law. I disagree with the outburst that says, you admitted it. That's not what the statement says, and that's not, we're talking about a $2,800 issue in the face of a $3.5 million property purchase in a special election that's going to cost the town $50,000 to $70,000. The township has the ability to resolve that issue and has done so. That is not, it's very upsetting to me as a practitioner who is dedicated to upholding the law and to the civility of this town. To cast aspersion on the governing body members because they should have done something differently, I think is very unfair. The law on that particular issue is not well settled at all. And I think the other point that I would make is that they rely upon me. They rely upon the township clerk. I know that the mayor has been personally attacked in this process. I'm not on Facebook for my own mental health, but I know that it's out there. I know that Fern has been attacked. Mr. Ouellette has been attacked. I actually spoke to him after the last meeting because he was personally attacked by somebody who came up to the microphone. That's not good. That's not good government. That's not good civility. Acting like somebody has oh, there must be something shady or there's something. That's so far from the truth. And this town, the amount of time that these people put in, whatever side of the fence they're on, to dedicate to this town. Lori Van Genderen was in here before. She talked about 29 years of service as the board chair. This town owes a debt of gratitude to her and to Ann, who's still sitting in, Carl. But Lori in particular, who's now stepped down, 29 years of service. And she's being called out on Facebook or whatever the method was. That's not right. I take a lot of pride in the practice of local government law. There's other areas of the law that are more affluent. I do what I do because I love it, and I get to work with people who actually care about their town. You add up the hours that they're putting in here and the amount of quote-unquote compensation they get for being governing body members, they could do so many other things and do much better, quote-unquote, for their family. They're here because they love the town and they care about the town. I'm upset about the animosity that has come out at times about this. I will say 90% of the public comment has been very civil. But to say that we have, been doing things behind closed doors or not being out front, this process has been a constant flow of information, of responding to questions, of responding to misinformation, of trying to answer questions, of trying to deal with the next step in the process. I'm proud of this governing body. I think that they show up repeatedly trying to do the right thing, and it's a very unfortunate situation when the comments that come out start to become personal. That's unfair and it's inappropriate. And the last thing I'll say is that when we lose our civility, we lose good government. And unfortunately, I see that happening at the federal level more and more. Every vote is down party lines. There's no communication whatsoever, and everything is a black and white end-sum game with personal attacks and pettiness. This town, look, all the people in this room showed up tonight because you care about the town. You might not come to the same conclusion when you go into that ballot box and vote, but at least respect each other for showing up. And that does not come from, I think I get something good out of this. There'd be a lot more well-slept nights up here if something, if they were not sitting up here. This is a sacrifice, and they should be respected for that. And I respect the people who come out to the meeting and comment and take the time. Tuesday's going to come, the vote's going to occur, and it's my sincere hope that whatever the result is, everybody respects the outcome. We move towards that, whether it be a yes or no vote, and we get back to the other business of Delanco Township.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Doug.
So I'm going to close this portion of public comment, and I just want to enter one piece of correspondence that was received. Janice?
Yes, we received an email correspondence from Sam James. Hello, my name is Sam James. I reside at 321 Magnolia Lane here in town. I'm unable to attend tonight's town hall meeting in person due to scheduling conflict. I want to take a moment to share what I support, to share why I support the referendum and will be voting yes. For me, it is simple as tax revenue. Do you want me to read the whole thing?
Yes, please. It's
Okay,
just
thank
a
you.
paragraph.
That way, the way I see it, I know that I pay over $7,000 per year in my property taxes, and I read the proposed truck repair facility would only generate somewhere in the area of $23,000 to $25,000 in taxes per year. With that being said, if the township were to purchase this property and end up selling it to a developer, which has been mentioned, wouldn't the tax revenue from, say, 10 to 20 homes far exceed $23,000 to $25,000 from the truck facility? I also remember that it wasn't very long ago that there was quite a bit of backlash and opposition to the new warehouses being built. So my question is, how many of you who are against this referendum were opposed to those warehouses? Thank you for your time, and thank you for to the members of the committee who volunteer their time to only be second guessed by those who don't. Respectfully, Samuel James. That's the only correspondence I received for tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all for coming and for your comments. I appreciate, yep. Hold on one second, hold on. I just want to thank everyone for their comments. I know it's a very passionate issue, and, we all feel strongly, and, regardless of how you feel, show up to the polls on Tuesday and vote how you feel. So, yes, for.
Janice, Edgewater Park is a drop-off box for,
Yes, if I may, Mayor, just there are 3 ballot drop-off locations for those that are voting. Vote by mail. The ballot drop box locations are the Edgewater Park Municipal Building. We do not have one here at Delanco because we do not meet the population requirement. The second one is 50 Rancocas Road in Mount Holly. That is at the county clerk's building. There is a ballot drop box there. And then also at 301 Harper Drive, Morristown. That is where the superintendent of elections office is. So those are the 3 vote by mail ballot drop box locations. Vote by mail ballots must be in one of those 3 drop boxes by 8 p.m., the close of the polls on Tuesday, July 29th. As for those who are still contemplating that maybe voting by mail, vote by mail rather than at your polling place. At this time, you would have to apply in person at 50 Rancocas Road. You can get your ballot application here at the municipal building. You can print it offline, a lot of places to get it. But to get a ballot, a vote by mail ballot, you'll have to take it to 50 Rancocas Road in Mount Holly, the county clerk's office. At this time, as there is, we're on a 7-day countdown. There are statutory guidelines for mailing it at this point, the application. So you can still get an application here, but you would have to take it to 50 Rancocas Road, the county clerk's office, to actually hand in your application and get your ballot. And they do issue the ballots right there as you're standing there when you turn in your application. So, and then of course,
same polling locations from
same
10 to
polling
8.
locations with the special, when you have special elections, municipalities, schools have an option to consolidate. However, the polling locations were not consolidated, so you will vote in the same places that you would vote for a primary or general election. We are not consolidating the polls. The polls will open at 10 a.m. And close at 8 p.m. And the reason for the 10 a.m. is more of a staffing issue. With summertime and vacation schedules, the county, was little, concerned about staffing at 6 a.m. and poll workers' availability. But so it's 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, July 29th. So if there's
Thank you.
any questions about vote by mail or your polling location, you can please, contact the municipal clerk's office. We'll be glad to help.
Thank you, Janice.
Was there anything else, Vern?
No, that was it.
Anyone else on the committee? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.
Why do I know the law better than you? I'm not a lawyer.
Don't even.
Almost.